Welcome to MIDI's Innovation Vault podcast. In this episode of Medtech's Next Wave, Innovators from LSI, we're joined by Alan Lucas, co-founder and CEO of NaviSci Sciences. Alan shares how his company is advancing precision cancer surgery with the NaviSci System, an innovative platform designed to identify and track soft tissue tumors during surgery. Born from a collaboration with Brigham and Women's Hospital, NaviSci tackles challenges like locating and measuring early-stage lung tumors for more accurate removal. Alan discusses the hurdles of medical device innovation, including funding, regulatory paths, and clinical refinement, and shares plans to expand NaviSci's applications to other cancers, aiming to partner with leaders in surgical robotics and medical imaging. Join us to learn how NaviSci Sciences is shaping the future of cancer surgery.
Welcome to the MIDI Innovation Vault podcast, where we delve into the forefront of medical technology and innovation. I'm your host, Greg Montalbano, co-owner and COO of MIDI Medical Product Development. And in each episode of this series, we explore the journeys of visionary leaders in medtech, discussing their backgrounds, their company technology, and the challenges and triumphs they've encountered along the way. Today, we have Alan Lucas, the co-founder and CEO of NaviSci Sciences. NaviSci Sciences is pioneering advancements in precision cancer surgery with their innovative NaviSci System. Alan, thank you for joining us today.
Greg, I very much appreciate the opportunity to be here with you.
Thank you. So Alan, to start, you wear a lot of hats beyond NaviSci Sciences. You're a senior partner at the international firm Alira Health, founder of the New England Healthcare Executive Network, which is a very robust networking ecosystem of healthcare executives, a board member of Enlighten View, which is a single-use micro endoscope company, and the managing director and CEO of Medtech Resources. So you got a lot on your plate.
Yeah, thank you, Greg. I like to stay busy, I guess.
Absolutely, that would keep you busy.
As long as I'm still viable.
Definitely viable. So with regards to focusing on NaviSci Sciences, could you share first a bit about your background personally and what inspired you to co-found NaviSci Sciences? And also for the listeners, could you give an overview of NaviSci System and the technology behind it?
Well, Greg, there's a lot to unpack in that question. But to begin with, I'll try to remember all the components. So I've always been involved in minimally invasive surgical instrumentation and innovation, primarily surgeon preference products in the operating room. So from the very beginning of my career, I started off in orthopedics and arthroscopic surgery and was with one of the first companies that developed the ACL guide systems for doing ACL reconstruction, and also the video systems that are used to image inside the body. So that was really where my background began. Through that, I was involved in a flexible endoscopy company, a cardiac surgical company making off-pump bypass instrumentation for cardiac bypass. And then was also involved in a brachytherapy company for making radioactive seeds for the treatment of prostate cancer. So all my involvement has been in minimally invasive surgical instrumentation, as I had said. For NaviSci Sciences, I was working on a consulting project that at that time was part of Partners Healthcare Innovation Office, which is now MGHB. And at their firm, they were having me look at some of the technology that they're involved in, looking at out-licensing opportunities. And that's where I discovered NaviSci Sciences. In that, I was intrigued by the opportunity to be able to track soft tissue deformation during surgical procedures, particularly as it related to cancer surgery, or the removal of tumors that might be moving around in the soft tissue, be able to track, measure margin control. And that sort of got me excited, and then taking the opportunity to actually then license the company technology to then build the actual company itself. So that's sort of, I think I try to hit on at least part of all the components of your question there, and the founding of the business.
You're not a stranger to class 3 devices.
Excuse me?
You're no stranger to class 3 devices.
Well, yes, actually, most of the products, to be quite frank with you, have been class two, 510K type products. So that part, we've been able to, at least work our products through the FDA doing the 510K pathway.
All right. So let's talk about navigation science itself. So what led you and your team to develop that technology, the NaviSci System, relative to its aim to address the challenges in cancer surgery? So what was the origin story of the technology and its application? Where did it evolve from? And ultimately, what's unique about the approach in tackling these issues that you've evolved over the years of development?
So our first go-to market application for the technology is for lung cancer, although it does have use applications for thyroid resection or partial thyroid resection, liver resection, for neuro applications in the brain. But the first application of use is for lung cancer. And my two co-founders, Rafael Bueno, Chief of Thoracic Surgery at the Brigham and Women's Hospital, and a radiology researcher, Jay Jagestine, whom is a researcher in the radiology department. My two co-founders really came to the realization that a lot of lung tumors that are being diagnosed at an earlier and earlier stage, when they're at a size, they're maybe 2 centimeters or less in diameter. These lesions are actually very difficult to locate and be able to actually measure the resection of the margins on those tumors. And like all cancers, one, margin control reduces local reoccurrence, but also early diagnosis is critical to long-term survival. For lung cancer, for many, many years, many of these patients sadly were discovered at a stage 4 disease where 5-year survival rates are really quite low, maybe 15% or less. If you diagnose lung cancers at a stage 1, the actual 5-year survival rate can increase to about 85%, 95%. That's a significant difference. Like a lot of other cancers, diagnosis typically happens through screening. So for prostate cancer, well over 70, 75% prostate cancers are diagnosed through screening, through a blood test. Breast cancers are somewhere around 65% of breast cancers are diagnosed through mammography. And colon cancer, many of these cancers are diagnosed at a very early stage through screening. Traditionally, lung cancer hasn't been screened. However, that's changed dramatically. There was a very, very large clinical study that said that you can reduce mortality by a significant amount by screening these patients. As a result, there's been many task force, the U.S. government task force, American Cancer Society, have been promoting screening for people who are at high risk at over the age of 50. That has brought in a lot more new and many, many more new patients at a very early stage where the lung cancer has the potential of being curable. That creates a surgical difficulty of where to identify the location of where those lesions are. And that was really the origin of the start of the technology development at the Brigham, which is what I had licensed. And so I've given you a very, very long reply as to why we think there's a significant market opportunity and market need for what we're doing. But that hence is the excitement of the technology.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. And so let's talk about early stages. So any medtech company, they face a wide range of obstacles when they're getting started. I'm thinking back in the very beginnings all the way through midpoints. And could you walk us through some of the major challenges navigation science has faced in its early stages, particularly with regards to technology development, regulatory hurdles, and securing funding?
Yeah, well, all of those, are key points to really touch upon. I think right now the most difficult hurdle in developing medical technologies right now is the capital availability to develop new technology. Currently, AI and other tech is drawing a lot of capital, or if you even look at the public equity markets, they're really focused on big tech, AI type of investments. And in healthcare and med devices, biotech are really actually down as far as both the investors and new investors coming in are capital deployment. I'm hoping that there'll be a rotation back as large tech and AI starts to mature a little bit more, and we'll have a rotation of the monies more into small cap, early stage companies in medtech and in biotech. But I'd say that right now is probably the biggest hurdle in putting together these new companies and technologies. One of the things that I looked for in putting together this company, in which I thought was extremely important, is that it came from a large major medical institution. To me, that is a significant benefit to what the future prospects and opportunities are. Two, that there is IP attached to that, and I'm happy to say that the two patents that we've licensed, both were PCTs, and one has just recently issued. In fact, we'll do an announcement shortly about that. We also have 4 U.S. patents that have issued on the technology from what we originally licensed. So, then the third part is that there have been 2 peer-reviewed papers on the technology written by my co-founders, and additional peer-reviewed papers that will be coming to publish. Those to me are, sort of the main pillars of what our potential successes are. And just sort of in summary, comes from a major institution, has IP attached to it, peer-reviewed papers, and access to the capital available.
Excellent. And, I'm sure customer and clinical feedback is integral in shaping navigation science and NaviSci System. So a question I have for you is, how has the feedback you've gotten on the system influenced your development process? And where are there unexpected insights that led you to make adjustments or pivots or significant pivots throughout the development process?
Well, so that's sort of a multi-part question. So when we did our initial due diligence at looking at the technology, I first engaged with large companies that are in the minimally invasive marketplace now. Firms like Intuitive Surgical, Medtronic, Siemens Health and Air in the imaging, Philips. So I discussed in J&J, I discussed what the technology was with all of those companies, and all of them expressed an interest in the area of surgical navigation and the work that we're doing. So that to me was important validation. In addition, we did a small study with roughly 5 thoracic surgeons around the country, where we discussed what the technology was, so it could validate the work that we were doing. And that was also an important validation of the technology. In addition to that, one of the things that I wanted to do in the development of the company was to try to get into humans as quickly as possible. So I wanted, in that, I put together a 25-patient single-site feasibility study. We filed an IDE with the FDA, the IRB committee. We did that at the Brigham, where the technology was invented, and we completed a 25-patient clinical study, primarily for feasibility, to validate both efficacy as well as safety. And from that, we learned really 2 things. In our technology, we have both a software and a hardware component. On the hardware component, we made adjustments to the the hardware itself to be a little bit more user-friendly and fit more easily into the clinical workflow. On the software, initially, the technology that we were using needed to have a significant amount of user interface adjustments made to it. Because when we did the clinical study, we really operated the software ourselves. The core software remained the same, but we learned a lot about how to design the user interface. Those are some of the things that we did as far as to validate the clinical relevance in that product development cycle.
Yeah, it certainly is critical, the graphical user interface, the application of the software is part and parcel to the physical device as well. So looking at the workflow holistically, and not only does it support efficient process, workflow, labor, but also support the efficacy of your technology. So that's really an excellent process. So just talking about partnerships, right? Any startup, it takes a village to raise a startup, right? So building a company with cutting edge technology such as yours could really require strong partnerships and collaboration. So has there been any strategic alliances that have played a key pivotal role in helping Navigation Sciences reach its current stage in development?
Well, we have really done all the development on our own through contract research organizations. We did do some work with one of the large strategics. They offered us the opportunity to work within their cadaver lab to do some initial development work with them. And that became a good partnership from the standpoint that we have strategics that are, watching the work that we're doing on that. The other part of the equation really revolves around our contract engineering group. So initially, when I first put the company together, I was managing all aspects of the rollout of the engineering and fundraising and all the other financing activities that are required. But I realized quickly that my expertise was not really in engineering management. So I did bring on initially a contractor and then an employee with the company to manage the engineering aspect of what we're doing. In my outsourced contract engineering, we worked with a number of firms, one to do the mechanical components, and that's where really their expertise lies. A second firm for the UX design for the software. And for the actual software engineering, I shifted my focus a little bit differently there. Rather than use one of the larger software contract engineering firms, I have two 1099 individuals who work essentially directly for us in the software development standpoint. Once the software is completed, we will need to sort of pull it all together into a sort of a systems verification validation, which I have been exploring various firms to do that aspect for us. So we've kept the company very lean and very virtual, but at some point in the next probably 6 to 10 months, we're likely to start putting together more of an infrastructure, provided the capital is available.
Mm-hmm. And talking about capital and securing funding as the critical part of a medtech journey, especially with what you're doing, what funding challenges have you experienced in raising capital? Particular challenges, lessons you've learned away that you can depart on any of the listeners relative to your learned knowledge and giving them a leg up on what to do, how to do it, what not to do, and what worked for you.
Well, Greg, I'm learning every day about this financing world right at the moment, and I alluded to it a little bit earlier about we're looking forward to when the capital gates open up a little bit more. I recognized when I first put the company together that most institutional investors were really coming into companies post FDA either approval or clearance. That the markets have been extremely tight. The institutional investors are risk adverse to very early stage startups. They want to see additional validation of the technology. So in that, I did one of the things that we touched on earlier was I kept the company as virtual as possible with no overhead or as little as overhead as possible. And that was a critical decision that I made very early on, recognizing the difficulties in raising monies. The second part is, I knew that I didn't, want to go to the traditional angel groups. And I was for a number of years, a member of MA2, Mass Medical Angels. And I just didn't think that they were the right financing vehicle for what we needed to do. So I was very fortunate in that, in my activities at Alera Health, became really our seed investor for the technology. And we brought in three large sort of a club, what I would say club investors or family investors for our initial capital. And from that, I was able to bring in additional high net worth individuals that were writing checks on average of around $500,000. So the capital invested in Navigation Sciences comes roughly from a third of clients from Alera Health, a third from a group of physicians, and then a third from high net worth individuals that we met through our capital raising efforts. So, I can speak to how we raised money for Navigation Sciences. Others might take different paths, but I think that the important takeaway is to, one, understand what the markets are from a financing standpoint, and be able to adjust your expectations based on what the current investment market climate is, where people are putting money, and at what stages and how much. And also understand what your total capital needs are to get to a cash flow break even, because that also too dictates where you might look for sources of capital.
Excellent. And certainly aligning yourselves with robust companies like Alera Health and others certainly, allows you to not only have the capital, but have a partner that's highly educated in this field and plays a role in moving the ball forward. So that definitely smart money is always the best way to go.
Yes.
So with MedTech, we're in a rapidly evolving industry. And my question to you is, are there any trends or advancements in technology that you believe will significantly impact navigation science or the field of precision surgery in the coming years, as you see it as a MedTech professional?
Well, and this is why I was interested in navigation sciences, or interested in the technology that led to putting the company together. I believe there's going to be continued significant movement to the robotics and robotic applications, but really assisted surgical approaches with robots and imaging combined. And that's really what we're doing at Navigation Sciences. Although I wouldn't classify us as a robotics company, we certainly are a significant aid to potential robotic surgical devices, both in robotic bronchoscopy or Da Vinci-like type products in the surgical application. So we're starting to see other companies that now are integrating imaging or imaging goggles to be able to, interface with both the radiology and surgical application. And so to me, that's a very exciting opportunity, and that's really where we lie in our technology. That and be able to aid the surgical oncology opportunities to me is actually bringing out products that will have a great opportunity to reduce in the surgical oncology space, potentially reduce local reoccurrence and provide a better outcome.
Excellent. So looking forward beyond present day, really future tripping, what's the next big milestones or goals for navigation sciences? And how do you see NaviSci System evolving beyond first market introduction, and what impact do you envision it having on the medical industry?
Yeah. So our first step is to complete the software development, verification, validation, then FDA filing. So to that effect, we've already had one pre-sub with the FDA. We'll have supplemental pre-subs with them as we start to prepare the dossier for our 510(k). That will be for the lung application. So from that, we'll then roll out the technology into the marketplace. As we expand and grow our market, when I look at current M&A and strategic partnerships that are happening in surgical instrumentation, we've seen, particularly in the last 2 quarters, in Q2, Q3, we saw a really, what I would say, a nice uptick in the amount of M&A activity that's happening for surgical instrumentation. They're mostly companies that already are showing early stage revenues in the 30 to $40 million range, getting acquired for 8 to 10 times revenue. So that to me is really where our goal is to get to that early revenue stage and ultimately end up in an exit to a strategic, either in the robotics, minimally invasive surgical, or imaging space. As we think about, also the company as being potentially freestanding, either on our own or with a strategic, it's roll out into other marketplaces for market sectors. Surgical resection of the liver, particularly where you can now map out critical vascular structures around the surgical resection. Thyroid, or doing partial thyroidectomies. There's a significant opportunity for neurosurgery. Current technologies right now in the navigation space, when you open up the door, the brain shifts, you're not able to track that. We're able to track that with our technology, be able to locate to precise locations. So I do see this as being very focused to the lung today, but also a potential platform technology for other soft tissue surgical applications where you want to track the movement of the tissues.
It's excellent. And very thorough, and a lot of possibilities in a platform technology. It's very exciting.
Thanks,
So
Greg.
finally, my last question to you is, as a leader in the medtech field, you've been around the block many times. You've made a lot of things happen. You've seen a lot. So what advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs or medtech companies that are getting going earlier in their career, startups looking to make an impact in the challenging but yet rewarding industry of medtech? Any high-level thoughts or golden nuggets of advice that you'd like to throw out there?
Well, I do see, and over the years, I've seen a lot of technology. I have been fortunate to be a VMS mentor at MIT, Venture Mentoring Service at MIT, where I see a lot of very innovative new ideas in technology come. But I think one of the things that advice I would give to aspiring entrepreneurs is spend as much time as they possibly can in the clinic. And I was very fortunate from the very beginning of my career, having spent a significant amount of time in the operating room through a lot of procedures, both in orthopedics, in general surgery, to be able to, in cardiovascular surgery. And I think that opportunity to be able to spend in the operating room, to really understand what the clinical workflow is, how products need to be developed for it, that it was a critical learning experience. So those individuals who have really potentially great ideas and IP around, my advice out to them is spend as much time as you can in the exposing yourself to the clinic, exposing yourself to the patients that are going to benefit from your technology. Because it's not always just the idea, it's also how it fits in the current continuum of care.
Mm-hmm. That is would be my advice as well. The single piece of advice is understand your customer, understand your end users, the pre, during, and post usage ceremony, even sterilization, and understanding every aspect of it. Not only will your device or your system fit the end user's needs hand in glove, but it'll fit within its end use environment, and ultimately along the way, as you're gathering that information, you're collecting advocates, you're collecting educated individuals who can be part of the ownership of moving that ball forward for you, which you'll always need in every spin of a product or every milestone. So that's excellent advice. And
well, so Greg, I've been very fortunate over the years that I've been able to obtain a number of patents on minimally invasive surgical instrumentation and on endoscopes. And although not a trained engineer, that all came from spending time actually in the clinic. I actually go back to a time period which I'm not sure there are a lot of engineers that still are able to do this, but when we were making and developing instruments at Acufex, for instance, we could easily go back into the engineering area and actually make adjustments to instruments really on the fly, and then the drawings happened afterwards. Now, so many things that are all done on CAD, the actual engineers don't actually ever have hands-on experience cutting metal or making instruments. It was not unusual to have catheters made that were wrapped in dental floss in early prototype phase. And I think that the more experience you can get on the actual hands-on on the machines and in the clinic, the better it is for actually developing new devices.
Yeah, agreed. Any of our development professionals here at MIDI, engineers, industrial designers, ergonomic people, it's all about hands-on. It's all about, push forward, fail quick, learn, move forward. It's really about progress and not perfection. And yeah, hands-on, right? Getting out there, going outside of your comfort zone and putting yourself out there in many different environments where, you're learning. And by learning, again, you're seeing things for the first time that, may be a benefit, in understanding those usage ceremonies. And that's really where it's at. And, well, Alan, thank you for sharing Navigation Science's journey and your valuable insights here today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Greg.
All right, so this concludes today's episode of MIDI Innovation Vault Podcast. A special thank you to Alan Lucas for sharing Navigation Science's story and insights into future precision cancer surgery. And we trust you gained valuable knowledge about the advancements of challenges within surgical technology and Medtech. So stay tuned for more enlightening conversations with Medtech innovators. And don't forget to follow MIDI on social media for updates. So thank you again, Alan, for your time.
Thanks.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of MIDI's Innovation Vault podcast, Medtech's Next Wave Innovators from LSI. We hope you enjoyed learning about navigation sciences and their transformative work in precision cancer surgery. Remember to subscribe to the MIDI Innovation Vault and stay tuned for more episodes of Medtech's Next Wave Innovators from LSI, where we continue to bring you the latest innovations and thought leaders from across the medical technology industry. Until next time, keep innovating and pushing the boundaries of what's possible in healthcare.